thank you so much for being here. I'm so excited to be sharing sound with you and kind of having more of a discussion, I would prefer, than me like just giving a lecture. So if you have any questions at any point, just stick up your hand and we can incorporate your question into the presentation and discussion, because really I want you to be able to walk away from here with tools that you can use in your own life, and then also moving forward when you start your own holistic nutrition practices, incorporating some of these tools could potentially be helpful for you. And I always like to say, I'm going to be sharing a lot of information. Not all of it is going to resonate with you. And I use the word resonate specifically because I'm a sound therapist, but I mean, not everything is going to feel like it's something that you need to be doing. And that's okay. This is just information, as with anything else that we encounter in life.
iTunes needs attention.
Look at me, I'm iTunes. It's all good. Yeah, so really just pay attention during this presentation and discussion, how your body is feeling. That's such a good indicator of what information is right for you. Okay, and that's kind of what I want to start out with doing, kind of a little exercise. If you look at the sheets that I've provided, so I'm going to play a few different sounds, and I would like you to just, you can close your eyes, you can have your eyes open, just kind of unfocus, and just observe what your first thought is without trying to filter it. Okay, no one else has to see these sheets, just first thought that comes to mind. Your emotional state, does it like bring up any sort of emotion for you? And then also, what is your body doing? What's the physical response? Okay? Here's the first one. Okay, so just take a second to observe and write down. Give me kind of a thumbs up when you're good. Don't think about it too much, just like one word. We good? Ready for the next one? You can come back to these after and just kind of like ponder on them a little if you like. Okay, 3, 2, 1. Here's the last one. That's all you get. Okay, how are we doing? 3, 2, 1. And for the fourth sound, I would like us to om together. Has anyone ever ommed before? Yeah? Okay, so we're going to start with 3 deep breaths in and out. And then on the third breath out, I'll start guiding the om, and you can feel free to join in, okay? So big inhale. And exhale. 2. And exhale. 3, ready to om. Okay, and then observe and write. Okay. So how did that first sound interact with you? What was the first thought that came to mind?
Annoying.
Mm-hmm. And what kind of emotion came up with that?
I didn't get that.
Bland.
No? Sorry.
Bland.
Bland? Okay. Just kind of like indifferent? Like
Yeah.
shrug it off? Yeah, okay.
Anxiety.
Anxiety. It gives me extreme anxiety when I hear that particular ringtone.
Yeah.
There's something about the like on the subway in Toronto. Ugh. And what happens to your physiology when something like that happens? Right. So you kind of like everything constricts. We get the like tense shoulders. Okay. So what about the second sound? Baby laughter. Sweet. Yeah.
Love.
Love. And physiological response. What's going on with the body? Smile. Just kind of like, oh, you want to like wiggle a little bit, right? Just like, happy baby. Yeah. And the third one? What was the third one?
Jogging.
Okay. I was wondering if this is like the right demographic. I was hoping so because it's a fun one. Yeah, what's the first thought that came to mind there? And that's an interesting one because for our kind of age group, that can trigger some interesting childhood memories if you grew up with that movie. So what are the first kind of thoughts that came to mind?
Simba.
Simba! Yeah?
It's empowering, but at the same time, it's sad because you know the story.
Oh, interesting. You got like multi-levels there. Mm-hmm.
It's funny, but I immediately thought of Africa.
Okay.
And because I want to go there,
So kind of like a longing?
yeah, it stirred that for me.
Mm-hmm. And how did you interact physiologically with that sound? What was happening with your body? Did you
Gave me chills.
Chills? Okay, that's a very astute awareness because that chills are kind of something that we can dismiss as like, oh, that's just the temperature of the room or the weather. But that's every sensation that you're feeling in your body is information. And the fact that you were able to pinpoint that, oh, when that sound started, I got chills. Very good awareness. Anyone else? Any other?
Giggles.
Giggles.
Straight up giggles.
Yeah, nice.
I felt my heartbeat
Mm.
because it's something that stirs something in you when I hear it.
Yeah. Awesome. And how about that last sound? The om.
Warmth.
Warmth.
Calm. Release.
Mm.
Deep.
Deep. And how is the body responding there?
No vibrations.
Mm. Anyone else?
I definitely got chills with that one.
Yeah.
That was the only sound that didn't trigger any thought whatsoever.
Interesting.
That's
Nice.
funny. I didn't write anything for that on that one either. I couldn't. I don't know.
Oh. Hmm. And that's interesting for me too. It's like, ooh, I take that piece of information and analyze it later. Yeah. So I hope this was a good demonstration of how sound can trigger so many different emotions, thoughts, and physiological responses in us. Just from like, there's like 2 seconds of sound for each clip, and your state has shifted, meaning that your conscious state has shifted. And just as it was that easy for me to trigger those things in you, you can trigger things in yourself. And that's kind of what I wanted to talk to you about in this session. So I do want to kind of bring this into food and nutrition because you guys, that's like your focus and such an important field and so much information that needs to be shared with the world that is what you're learning here. But I would like to ask to start off with, what is your definition of food? How do you define food?
Anything you put into your body.
Okay. Anyone else?
What nourishes your body?
Okay.
Gives life.
Okay. I'm not looking for a specific answer. These are just kind of like, yeah.
Something grown for consumption.
Okay.
Sustenance.
Mm-hmm.
Creating energy.
Okay, now we're getting a little bit deeper. I like it. Because in my mind, if I'm consuming something, I know that that's interacting with me at so many different levels, especially something that I'm like taking into my body, which is becoming part of my body, and that has energy associated with it. So we are vibrational beings. The only reason that we perceive matter is that it's vibrating slow enough for us to perceive it as matter. But we're really just part of the electromagnetic spectrum, right? We have matter, which is vibrating down here, and then we've got light and sound a little bit further up, and then we've got stuff that we can't even perceive with our physical being. And we tend to get stuck in that physical being, but we are so many layers outside of that. And with sound, we're able to access those additional layers. But sound is just one part of our environment. Food is another part. Food has an energy to it. Food has a vibration to it. So I ask what your definition of food is because I would like you to consider the vibrational component of the food and what that vibration is doing to your vibration in the same way that sound from my laptop triggered you in different ways. How is the food that you're eating triggering you in different ways? Does that make sense?
The frequency.
The frequency. The food has a frequency. And there are things that affect the frequency of the food. Can we name some of those things? What are some of the things that you're learning about that affect what you would consider the vibration of the food?
Radiation, chemicals, GMO, pollution.
Yeah.
Much everything. Cooking.
Right, yeah. So everything is interacting and creating a different vibrational state of the food that you're eating. And that includes how you interact with the food. Have you ever noticed that something, like a meal that someone has prepared for you with love, say you're like on a first date with someone and they've cooked you a meal, well maybe that wouldn't be first date, maybe like third date. But the love and like care that is infused into that food, you knowing that that person took that time and effort and had that intention of creating this nourishing meal for you, that is like, right? So we are able to interact with the food such that we can create a higher vibrational food for ourselves to consume. Does anyone have an intention practice around eating? I know Tiffany does because I've been working with her. Interesting. How do you usually consume your food? Is it in front of the TV, kind of like as you're working, outside in nature? Yeah?
So we, my husband and I, we have a toddler. He's 3, and we make it a point that we never eat when the TV's on or near the TV. It's always around the table. And we always stop and we say thank you and bon appetit. So like we try to just that 1 second to connect.
Yeah, beautiful. And that's all you really need, right? It doesn't have to be like all this ritual and like hours long preparation, but just connecting with the food and acknowledging where it's coming from, all of the energy it took to grow that food. By you acknowledging that energy, you're sending a message to yourself that this food is going to give me all that energy. Does that make sense? Awesome. So I would like to talk a little bit about the vibration of words. So just like food is part of the environment, words are also a big part of our environment. It's whenever we're interacting with anyone, what they're saying to us has that deep effect on us, even when we're not really aware of it. Is there, well, maybe I shouldn't ask this question. Are there words, maybe just have them in your mind, that you know are triggers for you? And how do they make you feel? Are any of you familiar with neuro-linguistic programming? Yeah, some familiarity. What kind of experience do you have with that field? Can you define what it is? We kind of break it down: neuro, brain,
It's kind of
linguistic.
like the words that you say, they have an effect because you hear yourself saying them, so they come back. So like when you use like negative self-talk can actually reinforce that, versus positive self-talk can reinforce that. Trains your brain to actually like interact in a different way with yourself as well as with others that you're speaking to.
And there are, do you want to add to that?
Sometimes it's about reprogramming your subconscious mind. It's about bringing your subconscious mind together with your conscious mind to have them work as a team, as opposed to your conscious mind thinking of your subconscious mind as an enemy or a competitor. A lot of times it's somebody else telling you things in order to reprogram your subconscious mind and install, if you will, different beliefs, right? Because a lot of your day-to-day reality is a result of your beliefs. But I have limited experience. I've heard of Maxwell Maltz and his work in the 60s or 70s. He even wrote a book, I believe, on NLP. It's a fascinating field.
Yeah, and you touched on a few key points there. Our beliefs shaping our reality and using words to direct our subconscious programming. And I also really like the fact that you brought up the merging and collaboration of the subconscious and conscious mind. Because we tend to have this idea that the subconscious is kind of out to get us. And it's got these like programs running in the background that are affecting us and we can't control it and it's just gonna make us react in weird ways. But that is a huge source of energy that we have. It's just kind of being misdirected right now. And it's only being misdirected, or at least this is my belief, see if it resonates with you. It's only being misdirected right now because we don't have enough experience in directing it yet. It's a foundation for us to build on. So I've shifted my perspective to not identify things as black or white or good or bad. They are just varying shades of gray, and it's up to you to choose which shade of gray you would like to experience. And looking at things from the angle from which you want to be manifesting from is going to be what's serving you the most.
You've been bringing like a spiritual aspect into it, like your shadow, like when you don't own the things in your subconscious and then they just own you. And they start to, because you're not looking at it, you're just kind of
got the blinders on. Yeah, and that's one very important thing that I think we need to or should consider reevaluating around the positive self-talk. That's it's a good place to start, but it doesn't mean that we put the blinders on and don't acknowledge the things that are making us uncomfortable, because that is all just information, right? But I wanted to go back to what you were saying about the collaboration of the two. I actually kind of like to think of them as the two hemispheres of the brain. So you've got the left hemisphere, which is very logic-oriented, structure, likes processes and strategies and analyzing to like the details. And then you have the right brain, which is majority like creative, flow state, artistic. And these two, a lot of the time, it feels like they're kind of butting heads against each other. And when we have that butting heads, that's just energy that could be used to be lifting us higher. So how do we get those two to coordinate? And we'll get into a little bit of that with a little exercise I have later. But with the words, there are a few specific words that you might consider eliminating from your vocabulary. So the first one is on the sheet there. Try. We're gonna do a little experiment. Take your pen and put it on the floor. Pick the pen up. Some power. Okay, now try to put your pen on the floor. So what happened there?
Give me an excuse.
There's resistance.
Resistance, that's a good word for it, yeah.
Hesitation.
Hesitation. Yeah, you can pick your pens up. Or try to pick your pens up. Yeah, so try, just having that little word in there, it's kind of like...
You're perceiving an obstacle.
You're perceiving an obstacle, exactly. You're just creating a little kind of barrier for yourself by putting that there, because the brain doesn't know what to do with that. It's like, okay, we're doing this or we're not doing this? And it's like going back and forth trying to figure out what's going on. So if you actually want to be doing something, and here I'm gonna sound like Yoda, but I've gotta get my like little Yoda cape and cane, but there is no try, there's only do or do not, and it's just the frequency or the duration of time that you're doing something for. Giving the brain an excuse to get out is not going to serve you. And then it comes down to being true to yourself about what you want to be doing. Because try gives us a little bit of an out, right? It gives us that excuse. It gives us the wiggle room.
Yeah.
Because if you're trying to do something, you're allowing yourself the opportunity to not do it if you don't feel like it. But if you don't feel like doing it, why are you even spending energy towards that anyways? But those can be some hard realizations to come to if they're situations that require you to interact with people in certain ways or say something about how you're feeling. So it's a powerful word. Yeah.
If I may add,
Yeah.
I was actually listening to a YouTube video recently, and they were talking about precisely that. When you set out to do something and you use this kind of language, I'm going to try to do something, I'm going to see if it works. In your mind, you create a plan B. And what ends up happening is instead of focusing on plan A, how to execute the task that I'm working on, your mind inadvertently focuses on plan B. What if I fail? How do I back out of this situation? And so your mind keeps thinking about plan B, not allowing you to focus on plan A. And that's exactly how, when you get to a point where you face a barrier, you're just gonna back out because you have this plan B. It's all great, it's perfect. Forget it. I'm not gonna do it. I'll just back out. Because your mind keeps thinking about plan B all the time.
Exactly. Except for the fact that because you've got your energy split into those two different things, plan B is probably not as perfect as you think it might be. Because you're trying to direct your energy into different, probably kind of opposing things. Right? Yeah, very good
It's
point.
just an automatic word. I know the kids in our family, they're always like, okay, I'll try. And I'm like, what do you have to try? Just do it. Just do it.
Yeah.
Right? You're like, yeah.
That's
it's
what
an
actually,
excuse.
I love the Nike slogan.
Yeah.
Just do it.
Yeah.
Actually, my personal slogan is don't think, just do. Because I overthink everything. Like every decision I have to make in my life is like, okay, we gotta break this down. We've got the pro-con list going. We've got like multiple opinions of different experts. But then it also comes down to being able to collect your energy. And this is kind of what you were getting at with like having multiple options. That's splitting your energy into different future scenarios. But if we collect our energy to the present moment, which is what meditation is all about, think of it like you're inviting your energy back from all of the different things that it's been interacting with and occupying. And if we draw all of that energy to us, think about how powerful you would be if you had all of your energy right here, right now. What could you create with that? Superpowers. Joking, not joking. I think the brain is very powerful, probably more powerful than we give the credit for, and we're just starting to recognize that we have access to certain abilities that we didn't even think were possible because we're becoming aware of this energy state.
Even like mind reading, being able to read someone else's body language or energy, like getting that nonverbal communication.
We communicate in so many different ways that are not verbal and not even physically. Like if you are on the other side of a door and you hear like an angry conversation and then walk into that room, you can like, it's like a wall, right?
Or even if you don't hear the
conversation, yeah. You walk in and it's like, oh, it's like a guy in here? Like, yeah. So we have so many different layers that are always giving us information. We're always collecting information. And then it comes down to what resonates with you, which parts of those information, of that information that you're gathering is going to serve you. So another word that I would like you to consider eliminating is should. So what does should kind of bring up for you? What does that word trigger?
Should, but I won't.
Okay, kind of like rebel aspect, yeah?
Making excuses.
Making excuses.
Yes.
Somebody from the outside telling me what I want to do, like an external force.
should do
Temptation.
this, you should do that. Yeah.
It's like, how do you know what I want to do?
Exactly. Yeah.
Brings up a lot of wrong making.
A lot of
Wrong making. So
Wrong
making yourself wrong, making yourself wrong. You should do this or you should do that. There's no should. It's just a choice.
Is there an emotion associated with that? What comes up? When guilt, yeah. Guilt is a huge emotion that we're just kind of like ignoring as a society right now. We're like, oh, I feel guilty about all of these different things, but I'm just gonna like sit and be uncomfortable with it. Or ignore it, yeah. But if we're saying things like should, I should do this, I should do that, that is an indication that we have external influences and that we're trying to please other people. We're not thinking about our own personal well-being. And who wins in that scenario? No one wins, because why does no one win in that scenario?
Because even if you do the thing that you feel like you should do,
Yeah.
sometimes people don't even care, first of all. So it's like you lose, they don't, nothing gained. So it's like just no one wins.
It's lose-lose.
Yeah.
Exactly. Are you guys familiar with Brene Brown at all? The story I'm telling myself is. That is such a powerful phrase. We are looking at the world through our perspective. We have all of these stories that we tell ourselves about what other people are experiencing, assuming that we know what's going on in their brain, assuming that we know where they're coming from, what their day was like, who they've interacted with, what food they ate. I believe that we have the ability to be mind readers in the future. I don't think we're quite there yet. And by just asking yourself, what is the story I'm telling myself that is making me feel like I should be doing X? That is so powerful to bring you back to what is good for you. And why is it important to think about what's good for you? Why can we be a little bit selfish? I don't even really like that word though. That's another word we're gonna just.
It doesn't need to be full before that pours over to the society and whatever. Like if you're empty, it doesn't matter what you do to the outside if you're empty on it. You need to fill yourself first.
Exactly.
Oxygen mask.
Yeah. Oxygen mask. Yeah, did you have something to add?
I don't necessarily agree that selfish is a bad word. We're conditioned to think it's a bad word. But I was recently listening to Abraham Hicks. You might have heard of her. And she talks about selfishness. Because being selfish is good when you can master yourself and what's good for you. Because once you're able to master yourself and what's good for you, you're able to make the world a better place and create conditions for abundance everywhere else outside of yourself. But you have to be selfish in a way in order to know what's right for me, right? And how do I think in terms of abundance and love and growth as opposed to selfishness and the limited kind of mindset of selfishness. So it's not necessarily a bad word, it just depends on the context.
Yes, and I agree that we've been kind of conditioned to view it as a bad word, but even our conditioning to view it as a bad word has affected the vibration of that word, right? But that brings up a good point with self-care. And if you're not able to fix what's in here, or I say fix, if you're not able to fill your own energy reserves, how are you going to help anyone else? Do any of you engage in self-healing practices? What are some of the self-healing practices that you like to use?
Reiki and meditation.
Nice. You do self-Reiki? Beautiful.
Meditation.
Meditation, yeah.
Tapping as well.
Tapping, yeah, that's a good one. And that's kind of like, it's a frequency, right? Affecting your vibration.
And go up to like the ravine or park just to nature.
Awesome, yeah, grounding.
Yeah.
What do you
Just started journaling as well, which has been helping, and positive affirmations.
Excellent. Yeah, so engaging in these self-healing practices, filling yourself first, will allow you to really show up and be present with the people that you're interacting with. That's something for me that has made a huge difference in my ability to connect with others. Because if I'm not able to give myself that attention, how am I supposed to give that to someone else? And the love.
And then energetically too, it comes off as something you don't really want to come off as.
Energy speaks louder than everything.
Yeah.
In my opinion, from my experience. Yeah. So, what word would you replace should with?
Will.
Will. Yeah, that's a good one. I've got another one in mind as well. Will works. I like will. Want. I want. Yeah. And if you can't insert want into the sentence, don't do it. It sounds simple. It's not. I acknowledge that. But it's at least good to start doing that just to bring awareness to things that you don't actually want to be doing, but you're doing to please someone else. Does that make sense? Awesome. How about need? What kind of feelings come up when you hear the word need?
Desperation.
Desperation. Want?
It's just emphasizing something that you don't already have.
Scarcity mindset. Yeah. It also puts us in that victim mentality, right?
Yeah.
We can't survive because we need this thing or this person or this situation. What can we use instead of need?
Want again.
Yeah. I want. And that's really drawing on that feminine energy. Because a lot of the times in our society, femininity is seen as like this needy creature that needs protection and needs to be taken care of. So us as, like, thank you for being here. Your male presence is appreciated. I'm speaking to mainly the females, but this applies to you as well. To step into our feminine power, we need to tell the world, we need to tell the world. We
Must.
it would serve us, let's use that. It would serve us to tell the world what we want. By telling the world what we want, we are acknowledging that we always already have everything that we need. And operating from that mindset, we can manifest the things that we actually want in our reality, not just the things that we think we can't live without. That make sense? Awesome.
I have another just
Yeah?
if little mind trick I guess I play with myself, bit of a game. It's when I feel like I need to do something that I really don't want to, like write a paper. I change it from like I need to study to I get to.
Mm-hmm.
And it does change things a little bit, and it promotes a curiosity. And so like I'm kind of like I'll find something about the situation that I don't want to do that is positive, that I am kind of looking forward to, and then I kind of focus on that, and it gets me going for the rest. So changing it from I need to I get to.
Yes. And that's an amazing program disruptor. So yeah, I'll talk a little bit about that. But gratitude kind of hijacks the brain in a good way. So it doesn't let you think those negative thoughts. When you're in a state of gratitude, your energy is shifted into that more positive state. And you can use that to disrupt some of those limiting subconscious programs. Yeah. Okay. So I did want to do a little exercise with you. Thinking about any little habit or something like a mindset that you would like to change. It doesn't have to be a big thing. It could be like, I don't know, I bite my nails. I'd like to stop doing that. So you can complete this at home. I just kind of want you to like start thinking about it now, and kind of describe how to go about doing this exercise on your own. So once you've got a habit or a mindset that you'd like to shift, then we start thinking about, okay, what can I disrupt that with? One of my favorites is exercise. Getting moving, movement, breathing, great disruptor because it engages the physical body and the mind has to just like kind of focus on what we're doing physically. but you can use other things like gratitude is great, journaling. Those are just some ideas. And then nature abhors a vacuum. So whenever you have a space that you're creating, if you're not consciously filling that space, something else will. So doing this practice, identify first what you want to be replacing that limiting program with. Does that make sense? And then, this is also a very important part in terms of neural circuitry and creating those new neural connections. Is anyone familiar with Hebbian theory? The neurons that fire together, wire together. If you have a habit that you already do that is serving you, that you're doing daily, that is a very ingrained activity, right? It's easy for you to do, you can do it automatically, you don't even really think about it. Those neural connections are very strong. If you anchor this new habit to something that is already strong in that circuitry, it makes it so much easier because those firing together, they'll wire together. Every time you do that habit that you're already doing and you're connecting this new habit to it, it just becomes like a little bit of an add-on to that already existing habit. Does that make sense?
Could you give an example? It sounds great in theory. I'd like to see it.
Do you brush your teeth every morning?
Mm-hmm.
Do you have to take vitamins?
Yeah, I do. I do take supplements.
If you didn't already take supplements and you had to start taking supplements, every time you brush your teeth, take a supplement before. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I actually drink, I have a glass of lemon water in the morning before I brush my teeth.
Okay.
So it drives me to brush my teeth very regularly and to floss and all that stuff.
So you're already linking things like that. Yeah, that's excellent.
So that's why I asked you for an example.
Mm-hmm. But you can
that
make them
totally makes sense, yeah.
Yeah, you can go wild with that.
Mm-hmm.
Like every time I exercise, I'm going to listen to a podcast on self-development. Yeah, sky's the limit. Okay. And last but not least, have you ever given yourself a high five? Everybody do it right now. Yeah, we're here, we're having fun. Self high five. So I have a theory about the self high five. And going back to the linking of the two sides of the brain and the subconscious and conscious. When we're coordinating our limbs, we're engaging both hemispheres. By bringing our two hands together in high five we associate with a reward. What is the reward molecule in the brain? Dopamine, yeah. So we're teaching our two hemispheres to communicate with each other by releasing dopamine. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. So this is like an install button, is what I like to call it. So any of these programs that you're doing, it's not going to stick very well if you're not being aware that you're making these changes and you're congratulating yourself for making these changes. That self-congratulation is so important because otherwise why would you do it, right? It's telling yourself that you are completing a task and you're proud that you've completed the task with a physical action that is coordinating the two hemispheres with the dopamine release.
Yeah.
So powerful.
And not waiting for anybody else externally to tell you.
Exactly right. That's that internal validation. Yeah.
So is that how we get to impact our subconscious with consciousness and bring them together?
That's one way. Yeah. Yeah. You look like you have a question. No?
Yes, I do. I've heard kind of conflicting advice. When you're talking about consciously reprogramming yourself, let's say with maybe positive affirmations or other techniques, I've heard that the subconscious mind is responsible for 95% of your brain activity. And your conscious mind is only responsible for 5%, meager 5%. And you can't
How do you
can
find
consciously
subconscious and conscious?
Huh?
How do you define subconscious and conscious?
Oh God. Well, your subconscious mind is like a tape recorder. You cannot talk to it. You cannot have a conversation, but you can, under certain circumstances, provide instructions that it will record, just like a tape, and it'll continue playing that tape. Let's call it tape, with new instructions. But the challenge is, your subconscious mind cannot record those instructions just by you consciously saying something. Your mind has to get it, because if I'm not mistaken, your mind needs to be in a theta or delta state in order to be receptive to those commands, if you will, or those suggestions, or that new programming. And
So how do you get to theta state?
by falling asleep and having that window of opportunity to listen to instructions, pre-recorded instructions, either by yourself or a program. It's like self-hypnosis. But you have that limited window of opportunity just before you fall asleep, but you're not exactly conscious. So you're in the process of falling asleep, and that's your window of opportunity to reprogram your subconscious mind.
But who chooses when you're in that state?
What do you mean, who chooses?
Who chooses when you're in that state of susceptibility to change?
Your mind.
Your conscious mind.
Yeah. Because it's in transition from conscious to subconscious. I'm assuming that your dreams happen when your subconscious mind is dominant.
I don't know if you can define that to that extent with what we know, but there are ways of reaching theta state. Meditation is one of them. And if you are consciously making the decision to go to that state, then you have full control over what your subconscious is doing. It's just learning how to access that system.
The theta state.
Theta state and other states. There are multiple brainwave states. Some are good for some things, some for others. But that's kind of what I wanted to wrap up with this discussion, using sound to trigger these different states. So I use mainly tuning forks in my sessions. And the tuning forks that I start a session with, there are two different frequencies that create a binaural beat. You heard that term before? Mm-hmm. So when you have two frequencies going into the two individual ears, your brain, from subtracting those two frequencies, creates a beat that it perceives. This beat, depending on the frequency, can entrain your brain to a different state. So I start my sessions with two forks that the difference between them is around 7 to 8 hertz, which is theta. So just by using sound, you're able to reach that state. And then going from there, that opens a whole world of possibilities, right? I also wanted to talk a little bit about triggering specific emotions. Because you were talking a little bit about your experience on the weekend with releasing from a sound trigger. So there's the kind of technical side to sound therapy, and there's also that spiritual side. And merging these two worlds, I think, is where we're kind of headed, where our awareness needs to head, because spirituality, it's the energy that fills us. And we hold so many things within our energetic body, like traumas from childhood, but then we can also talk a bit about intergenerational or even past life blockages. Right? But if you think about your parents experienced something traumatic in their childhood, and that shaped the way that they were brought up, their beliefs, the stories that they tell themselves, and you were brought up in their household, inheriting those beliefs. That's going to shift your energetic state. And it's not that these are bad. These blockages, energetic blockages, is something I want to really drive home. Blockages serve you. They're there for a reason. It's when they become obsolete and they're no longer serving you that they become a problem. So as a practitioner, when you go into your own practices, I would really encourage you to pay attention to how you're feeling about specific events happening in your clients' lives, and whether they have those blockages up, but whether those blockages need to be up for a little while if they're still serving them. And that's like having that connection with your client is very important for that purpose. Because otherwise, like just kind of giving them a diet is not going to serve their needs in that moment, at that place and time. Does that make sense? Okay, I think kind of out of time, which is unfortunate because I love this discussion that we're having. But I did want to send you off with a little sound bath just to calm and send you off into a reflective and peaceful afternoon. How's that sound? Awesome. Okay. So I invite you to get comfortable. And whether that means sitting in the chair or even like lie on a table if you really wanted. Get crazy. Okay. So I'm just going to guide you to a meditative state. And then you'll hear some sounds and a little music. And I would just like to invite you to draw your consciousness to this present moment. It's only going to be a few minutes. Everything else can wait. Okay? Start by gently closing the eyes. Connecting with the breath. Feeling the chair supporting the weight of your body. Feeling any stress or tension just start to melt away. into this space, back into this time, back into your body. And when you're ready, opening your eyes. How are we doing? Good, you're all like zened out now. Perfect. Well, thank you so much for having me, and it's been a pleasure interacting with you. Thank you for your energy, for your questions, comments, perspectives, and namaste. Sorry?
Are you going to do your draw?
Oh, yeah, I didn't really...
You just covered a piece of paper.
Yeah. Oh, actually, no, I did. How's Jackie? Hasn't covered. If you, on your way out, would like to fill out a ballot, and then I can contact the winner by email or phone. Sound good? Awesome.
So what do those do?
These are tuning forks. Yeah, actually, I didn't end up using these today.
Tell us?
That's what those sound like. Yeah, I got too wrapped up in our discussion. Tuning forks, so these are at specific frequencies that allow me to interact with each of the different chakras. So with that, I'm able to assess the energetic health of each chakra. Yeah, Yes, I can. Thank you for reminding me. I get too carried away sometimes. Would you like to come up? So, each of the chakras is an energetic body along our midna. Each one is kind of associated with a different state of being or an awareness that we can have about ourselves. So I work with mainly the 7 chakras. There are more than that. Those are the main ones. But using the tuning forks, let's see how your root's doing. Yeah, pretty good.
Is it?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. So the tuning fork, when it's vibrating, is interacting with the electromagnetic field that your chakra is producing. So it will spin counterclockwise, balance, and spin clockwise when it's balanced and fully open. If there is a blockage to the energy, the fork will not move.
With any blockage?
With any blockage, yeah.
Even one little blockage, it will move?
Well, it may be only spinning to one direction, so it'll be partially blocked. And depending on the orientation of the fork, and I'm listening for the sound that the fork is making, yeah. So there's a whole bunch of different information I can pick up from that, but I did want to stress that this is my modality. It's the modality that allows me to observe from an unbiased perspective. And I do encourage you to try out sound as your modality, but I wanted to make this more about giving you tools to use for yourselves and for your clients than my specific modality, if that makes sense. But maybe if I come back for another lecture. Yeah. So each of the chakras, I assume you've heard of them in this crowd? Yeah. So root is stability, tribe, sense of safety, sacral, sexuality, creative energy. Solar plexus, our sense of confidence, place, and purpose in the world. Heart, love. Throat, communication. Third eye, inner guidance and intuition. And crown is connection to source, divine oneness. So, sorry? Yes, you can sit down. Thank you. Yeah, so by judging the movement of the forks at each of these centers, I'm able to determine which of these energetic bodies you have blockages or imbalances or misalignments. And then using the mindset strategies that I was working with you with, I help you to implement new programs that help us support those energetic bodies depending on where the blockages and misalignments were. Yeah. Yes?
So testing each chakra with another fork, I assume?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And whatever are imbalances, are you working with a fork to bring in balance, or music, balls, like make sure that...
Yeah, so I start by using the forks. They're kind of like my first line of attack. Not attack. first line of love to sense, and then I infuse these energetic forks into lower frequency forks, which I can show you actually. Because they're lower frequencies, they can interact with the physical body. So these ones I will use actually against your skin, so you feel the vibration. So if I'm clearing a blockage to the energetic flow, I will infuse, and then I'll use this physical fork on the physical body. Sometimes that doesn't work. Sometimes the blockages are more than superficial, more than just the ones we kind of pick up in everyday life. If they're from like a traumatic childhood experience or past life, intergenerational, all that jazz, then I move to different means of shifting the energy, which can include moving the forks in specific ways that allow me to direct the energy better. If you think of like Tai Chi or Qigong, like those kind of energy flow manipulations is kind of like what I'm doing with the forks there. But then there are still some stubborn blockages that I will encounter that require different instruments. At least this is, and again, this is my modality. This is the way that I interact with the energy. It's not necessarily how you will interact with the energy, if that makes sense.
And there is more than one chakra that's not in balance. Is intuition where to go first, or there's a sequence of events that you're stucking with, or you're following, or?
So I work from root to crown on your back, and then you flip over, and I work crown.
So you always go with all of them, or just, okay.
Yeah. I mean, there are some times where I will only clear certain blockages because, again, like that's sensing when those blockages are actually serving as opposed to inhibiting. And that's kind of tapping into that spirituality, that divine oneness, and just allowing the energy to work through you. But the tuning forks for me really allow me to step out of myself. Put the ego to the side and take off the glasses that I wear to see my reality. Does that make sense? Any other questions about this stuff?
How many sessions would you typically do, like with a client, or what does the whole treatment kind of like, or the whole process look like?
So my first sessions, I actually just changed it. They're now an hour and a half. And that allows me time to sit down with you, connect with you, and help you craft an intention, which is part of the, like, you need to have something to fill the vacuum with before you do this work. Then you're on the table for about an hour, and then we sit down again and talk about your experience with the sound, because everyone's experience is different. It's actually my favorite part of the session because some people see colors, some people have like childhood events come back to them, or past life events, or out-of-body experiences. It's always so much fun to hear about what happened. And then from there, if you feel that the modality works for you, then I like to work with you over 6 months. And that would be like one session per month sort of thing.
Did you do any specific training for this specific? I know you have a lot of training, a lot of different things.
Too much training.
But is there any one specific thing that you did that translates most into this work?
That translates most. They're all kind of, well, so I did do a certification for sound therapy with the tuning forks in the States. It's a very, like working with the tuning forks is a very new modality, so there are a lot of people out there doing it, and if you were looking to get training on it, I would say like go to the website, see how you feel, like really listen to your body with that, because it's such a new area and there isn't a lot of like the hard science. But having experienced it myself is probably like the most powerful thing for me.
That's really, really cool.
Yeah, the way that the sound, especially like me being a musician, sound is one of my really big triggers, and I can use that to my advantage with the sound therapy.
For sure.
So I really felt it when I experienced the tuning forks for the first time. It was like the couple weeks after my first time experiencing them were like these huge shifts in my mindset, my mentality, my motivation, my energy. It was,
wow.
Yeah. But that's me, right? I love interacting with sound, and I really feel that sound working for me. So it could work for you. I encourage you to try it. Like the fact that you're here and you were interested probably is a good indicator that sound might be a good modality for you. But there's so many other ways of achieving that self-healing.
Cool.
Yeah.
Thank you. You're very welcome.